in the world was forced to contend. And there was definitely something more happening than was of the norm. And so um, Longinus, after that, and having his eye healed from all of the blood that dribbled into his eye, in which he had been blinded for a long time from a war wound. And he was gifted with not only the return of his physical sight, but also that of his received a spiritual awakening that allowed him to recognize things that were not seen by other people, even the other apostles. And so this evening I'm going to cover the 3 chapters of the Thracian Chronicles of Longinus that I was not able to go into. And then also, I'm deciding on whether to share with you a portion of the Book of Navi and the relationship of Orpheus, the Thracian priest king, going back to very ancient times, who was selected, chosen by Yahushua as the word Isis is what they called him, Isis, to recover the ancient documents and the testimonies of his forebears and to bring forth the truth of and the knowledge, the faith, and the religious understanding of the Thracian people as they were dedicated to the worship and the reverence of the Godhead in Father, Son, Holy Spirit, the Holy Spirit being a feminine aspect of the Godhead, just as is related also in the Odes of Solomon, which is a ancient manuscript which has nothing to do with, but also is a witness to the same revelation. However, I also have many chapters of the Book of Arih which I can share with you. However, the content is more focused and more beneficial, I think, to those that are of the Bulgarian bloodline and that have a personal stake in knowledge and revelation of the Thracian people. But, being that they were the first Christians post flood and that the knowledge that they held as an empire and which had been passed down to from their kings and their people to the Greeks and the Romans and the Athenians and on, even the ancient Egyptians, and that this information, and because they were Christians, it also shows and historically preserves the foundation of what became the Christian faith. And so, really, for those of us that are disciples of the Messiah and know him as the way, the truth, the light, and life, that our foundations are, still rooted into the Thracian people. And so, even if we're not blood related or have been, raised as one of the other tribes, that of the Shemites or the Hamites, because even though the Hamites were a seed of the serpent, still the Thracians were from Tyrus, and he was a king of the sons of Japheth. And this information, the Book of Arih, contains a really incredible breakdown and detail of many chapters of that accounting. And so probably I'm going to share with you the Book of Navi, because I think it would be of more interest, especially as a follow-up to the Chronicles of Longinus, which is also an incredible manuscript, and one which, again, most have never heard about, and which I think is just amazing once you are open to the account contained within it. But I do want to share one other thing before we go into this, and this is it has to do with Matic, which is a cryptocurrency, and which is now available for purchase through Coinbase. And I know many of you that want to learn from and have been following the Cryptos for Ding Dong series are only Coinbase investors, and that have not yet branched out to other exchanges, either Binance or KuCoin or BlockFi or any of the other ones. But that if and I think that Matic as a whole, and of course this is not financial advice. I am not a financial advisor. I'm simply an individual that, having looked into and examined the cryptocurrency markets, just sharing my opinion as to what I would do to those of you that are my friends, and that, as in having a conversation over the water cooler, this is what I would tell you so that you could benefit. And so Matic is a cryptocurrency which is came down, I think it's $1.70 something. It had reached $2 and something just yesterday, and had increased 48% at that point. But of course, those of you that follow the markets know we had a correction and a retracement last night and over the course of today, and that Bitcoin is at 39,000 right now, which is, if you look at the crypto fear and greed index, it is at a 24. And the last time it was at a 24 and there was this much fear and panic in the markets was when the coronavirus caused all the markets of the world to essentially be purged, and everything was dropped. Anything of value there was so much fear, so much speculation, and so much uncertainty that nobody wanted to hold anything, and everything was dumped. And of course, we know that took Bitcoin down to 3,000, and then it wasn't but a few weeks thereafter that it started to rise and to gain in the value, and made a recovery within a few weeks to where it doubled its value. And I'm not saying, of course, that this is what will happen in over the next few weeks, but certainly the relative strength index is at a pretty good low. And those of you that follow technical indicators, this usually means that as a crypto, Bitcoin is oversold, and that people are dumping that don't understand the technicals. And those that do are going to utilize this point as a buying opportunity, and that the weak hands are selling their Bitcoin to the institutions who are just, just so grateful to have Bitcoin come down this far again, and for them to be able to put as much money as they are holding into the markets. So, but anyways, really quickly, my suggestion, and again, this is not financial advice, but for those of you that don't have a lot of money and are only putting, $10, $20 every other week or so, Matic is one of those coins that you can purchase at a, right now I think it's $1.50 or whatever. So it's not a lot of money, and you can actually hold a number of coins. And not only do I think that it will reach its all-time highs, very soon, again, as it did just yesterday, but that you can transfer Matic to your Celsius wallet. And if you don't yet have a Celsius wallet, I will post a link in the description that will give you $40 bonus of Bitcoin if you transfer $200 of any cryptocurrency from your Coinbase account to Celsius. And so, open up a new wallet using this link. And if you transfer $200 in Matic or Bitcoin or whatever you are, sitting on in Coinbase, and it's not paying you any yield anyways, if you transfer it to Celsius, you'll earn yield. Even on Bitcoin and Ethereum, they're paying like 6-7% interest. And on Matic, you can get 13.39% interest, which is pretty good. And this is a weekly, a weekly bonus, and they are paying you in the cryptocurrency you are sitting on, or have transferred over to the Celsius account, your Celsius wallet. And so if you're holding Bitcoin or Ethereum, you are getting paid in that crypto weekly, and at that 6-7% interest, and you can then compound. And so with Bitcoin having gone down and being at such a low, you can really benefit as the price of the cryptocurrencies start to go up. And there is a weekly tabulation and release of the rates that are being paid for certain coins by Celsius. And so you can check them out and see if what you're just holding and sitting on in Coinbase, if it would benefit you more to transfer it to Celsius and to earn that passive weekly income, and also getting paid back in crypto, so that your yield is accruing and compounding interest. And so I will, as I said, and I also covered this in an email that I just released for the Cryptos for Ding Dongs group. I will post it into the Discord. I have not yet had that chance. But if you are interested in learning more about these kind of things, just email me, zengarcia2010@gmail.com. Again, for not any kind of financial advice, but certain opinions amongst friends. And I thank all of you for listening, and I just want you to benefit, especially those of you that are struggling, that are having a hard time. And many of you have reached out to me about how you have benefited and how the information has, helped you. And so for that, I'm really grateful, because it's all about, teaching a man or a woman, a family, to fish so that they can feed their children, so that they can step ahead and utilize these tools, because cryptocurrency markets are really just now being established, and those that are involved are the early adopters, and you're ahead of the crowd. So, all right, we're going to go ahead and get into the Chronicles of Longinus, and I should be able to finish this up before we get to break, and then I will decide on, we'll probably read from the Book of Navi. All right. Chapter 15, the Chronicles of Longinus, the Thracian soldier which pierced the side of Christ. Step by step, I was realizing that in the other parallel earthly world, there are different zones containing different things. Some zones are exactly the same, like in the world in which we live, but they are perfect, just, and blameless. Sometimes I would meet there duplicates of people who still live here on the earth. It was of great value to me to hear what they thought of the world in which they lived, where they are not able to lie or not able to hide their true selves. Other zones look very similar to the heavenly places, where angels and saints meet and speak to each other and one another, and to God in majestic temples and courts, which likeness is not to be found in our ordinary world. In the beginning, during my trips to Terrakia, i.e., to the other parallel Earth, I didn't see any useful utilization which I could apply. This, reminds me of the whole Bizarro world, Superman, but that they were strange. But anyways, it's interesting that Longinus, having the spiritual gift, speaks about these parallel places where he met and even learned from angels and saints. To my knowledge, these trips remain to be just an exotic spiritual experience. The most joyful part was to get hands on that world because I encountered there the wonderful presence of God and Isis, who loved me and who helped me in everything in my life. So he was always that real companion in life. In a way, I saw him and even got to know him in closer proximity. Naturally, this made my faith in him stronger and unshakable. I didn't seek for more because this was absolutely enough of an experience for me. But soon I realized, but soon I started to realize a new phenomenon, which apparently would be just a pure pragmatic application in my everyday life in this earthly world. And the fact was that a lot of the things which I was finding or receiving in Terrakia turned to have been transferred from there to the earthly Terrakia, to my simple human world. In other words, I was realizing slowly that in that parallel world, there are many things which I can bring here to our world, and in opposite manner. I can bring some things to that other world. This discovery made me very satisfied because many of the things out there were attributed easily and immediately only if you asked. But here, in the difficult earthly life, it is required. I'm sorry, it jumped to another place. Oh, okay. This discovery made me very satisfied because many of the things out there were attributed easily and immediately only if you asked. But here in the difficult earthly life, it is required. It requires a lot of efforts for years in order to achieve something of a spiritual nature. And I would add to influence or affect what is essentially the dreaming world. And this is not contained within the document, but I would add that what Longinus is speaking about in some of this manuscript with his spiritual insight and revelation is that he was having a visionary, dreamlike experience, much like the ancient prophets, and much like is contained in the medieval Irish Apocrypha, which describes many of the visionary experiences contained therein are accounts of near-death experience, and which people having died and having succumbed to death, they went out of body and went out of, what is this natural world, and connection, containment from it into other aspect and transformation, which does not make sense to a lot of people that have never experienced. But again, there are many people who have, and lucidity within dreaming is something that it's an aspect of the language that the Most High shares with the prophets and visionaries and people that that are in communication. And so I think that a lot of what is being spoken of here and described, and hundreds of years ago, thousands even, would be that kind of a experience, and language that can make sense when applied to that kind of medium and that kind of experience. All right. Continuing. Receiving things from that other world saved me a lot of effort and other expenditures and complications. There were also some things from our everyday life which were easy to receive and to transfer them to that other world. But there they have more value because they have completely different meaning. From this moment, I experienced and happily comprehended the discovery of the first travelers to the new lands, people who understood benefits from the richness which are hidden inside. For example, in Africa and India, if they just could be For example, in Africa and India, if they just could be transferred successfully to Europe. The fact is that the opposite transfer of goods from Europe to these remote lands have also beneficial priority. Such similar attributes cause the discovery and the maintenance of secure seaways to the new lands, as well as migration and colonization. And so what he's saying is that, there were still no roots as far as the world knew, which could link these countries together. But in these spiritual accounts, in the spiritual worlds, that they were able to achieve travel and communication with one another. And so that's something of interest. All right, continuing. And it makes you wonder if, that kind of thing took place and if the roots were learned because of dreaming. And after having received such correspondence, if different peoples trying to follow out what they had seen, what they had witnessed, if this then manifested into um, such reality. All right. Trying to find exactly where I left off. From this moment, I experienced and happily comprehended the discovery of the first travelers to the new lands, people who understood benefits from the richness which are hidden inside. For example, in Africa and India, if they just could be transferred successfully to Europe. The fact is that the opposite transfer of goods from Europe to these remote lands have also such beneficial priority. Such similar stimulus caused the discovery and the maintenance of secure seaways to the new lands and as well migration and colonization. Okay, I had read that, but at least I was able to review. So completely spontaneously and naturally was born inside me the desire to discover a way through which I could be able to enter and to leave Thracia, to be able to move frequently and in a secure way between our world and that other world, so I could use things practically from the privileges poured out from similar possibilities. After years had passed, I already collected into a heap multiple experiences in Terrakia, the other Earth, which most of them lasted for a short time. And only because of repeated travels, I was able to get a basic understanding or a basic picture of that parallel world. But still, I wasn't able to stay there for long, nor did I learn how to pass through the gates of God's city by my own will, no matter how much I tried to learn to do so. And the reason being is because, according to the scripture, um, the New Jerusalem is prohibited to those that are living and those that are in the living in such a manner that they can't go on to enter into New Jerusalem, because that is a place preserved for the righteous and for those that are still, not worthy. Because even at the end, when the harvest is separated, the wheat and the tares, that those that are numbered amongst the wheat and undeserving of blessing and a return to their first state, that they will not be numbered with the righteous and with the elect, and for that reason aren't allowed to have their glorified form or to live with the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit in New Jerusalem when it descends down out of the heavens. And it is said to be here on the earth, that, the 1,000 years of the Sabbath rest, the day of the Lord. Oh, which, I also wanted to remind people that today and the Sabbath for this month, last Wednesday was Rosh Chodesh for the month of Sivan. And that this Wednesday, is the seventh perfect Sabbath from the Feast of Unleavened Bread, which is the 15th in the sun. And so today being the 8th of Sivan, and also being, one of those holy days, that tomorrow is Pentecost or Shavuot. Because, if you really account the counting of the Omer, and then also determine that the Omer always, if you count 7 perfect Sabbaths from unleavened bread, the Sabbath of unleavened bread, it always takes you to the 8th of Sivan. That is the 7th Sabbath from the 15th, according to the lunar calendar, even though this is sometimes 52 or 53 days. Because you don't count Translation Day or Rosh Chodesh in the number of the counting of the Omer. And so the 9th of Sivan is always the 50th day when counting the Omer from, the as far as Rosh Chodesh. And so today is the first Sabbath, the 8th of Sivan. Tomorrow is the 9th of Sivan, and it is the Pentecost or Shavuot. And then, there's no more days of counting the Omer, but then you will have, this is the first quarter lunar Sabbath. Next Wednesday will be the full moon lunar Sabbath, the third quarter the following Wednesday. And then you have the Wednesday of the lunar conjunctive moon. And if you're interested in learning about the Enochian lunar solar calendar, whether seasonal or, as the January through February, seasonal meaning March through February, that you can get those calendars at the Enochian lunar solar calendar at sacredwordpublishing.com. Or just go there, sacredwordpublishing.com, and search for the Enochian calendar, and it will come up. All right, continuing. But still, I wasn't able to stay there for long, nor did I learn how to pass through the gates of God's city by my own will, no matter how much I tried to learn to do so. I was seeking the doors of the city, and I wanted to learn how to find them and how to pass through whenever I wanted. I couldn't either determine the position of its streets or its surrounding. I almost lost my conviction that this could ever be possible for me to learn one day how to do it. But on one particular day, when I found myself in Thracia, in that other world, I heard words from God, which made me reconsider all my understanding and my idea regarding God's city. Okay. On this day, God himself showed me the doors of his city, and he showed me the day when they will be open for many. Yahuwah, God said, you will open doors for people in your world instead, which lead to my city. so the chosen by me may pass through the new Madarak. In this new Madarak, the travel needs of all saved humans will be allowed. Go therefore and teach the faithful disciples of the mysteries which were hidden from the consciousness of the world till your epoch. See as I have spoken to you. Terakia means in this chapter strengthen the idea of what was said previously, that Terakia seems to be another earth. Okay, New Madarak means the New Jerusalem, prepared in that parallel land. All right, 16. Just a little bit more here. Therefore, I am teaching you, my son Theophil, of these secrets, so when God's Spirit comes upon you and reveals the word of the speech which the portal gate of the city itself listens to, you may also pass through it and be together with God. And the portal, the gate of the city, is in the wilderness, raised up like a big falcon in the midst of the rocks, the cliffs. His is also the sign of the great city of the Son of God. In the place before the portal happen things which are for the future of the world you live in, but which are in the shadows. There is a raging war before the walls of the city. There occur earthly earthquakes which destroy the walls of the old city in process for the new. When the pipes trumpet, they are doing it there. They are the battalion fights. And every traveler worshiper would be killed on their way to God's city if the soldiers of God, if the soldiers of Christ who guard the city didn't rescue them in time. And the city has a river which encircles it on all sides, and it serves as an island in a big sea for those who are blessed. And if someone swims in its water and the world sinks down, he would get out and find himself on the island again. There's a beautiful lagoon and a warm southern shores where the blessed visitors can go for pleasant relaxation. Here comes often even the bride of the kingly son, clothed in her garment, in the same way as if she was ready for her husband. Her beauty is supernatural. Her eyes are like the fire of love, and her banners are strong as God's banners. She gives a banner to everyone who spots her and who can catch up with her. Only the pure hearted can see her, for she is shy and is hiding from anyone who would be. Only the pure hearted can see her, for she is shy and is hiding from anyone who would look after her with shameful eyes. She is pure and holy, and she does not know what sin is. The eyes of the chosen one will find her, and his thirst will be quenched, and her mantle will wrap him. Her beauty is the holiness of the very love which name is the bride and the city of the saints. Descending from God, where Orion is, where the star never sets down, there is a portal, a gate of the city, which rules over cities of the world. It is guarded by strong warriors who do not listen to depravity and brides, and whose faces are like dark stone towards any temptation and luxury. They do not look at the worldly things, nor do they listen to the worldly things, because things from the world are dead things to them. Their machines or machinations, vessels, are as fast as thought, with which they travel between the worlds, and their eyes do not miss anybody who violates its borders. But the Orion itself isn't the throne of the Almighty God. And oh, how powerful is its movement, coming and going between the worlds in the universe. When the throne moves, the universe is shaking and the stars disperse on their way. And the face of God and the face show up of him who sits on the throne. I would also add that for those that haven't heard me speak about this, this manuscript written by my friend is, English is his second language. And so I'm reading and translating some of the material to make it easier for you to understand and to be able to conceptualize. And so that's why there's sometimes moments of brevity. All right. His image resembles a man, but his brightness is so great that nobody can look at his face. This reminds me of Ezekiel chapter 1 as well, where Ezekiel describes the Most High like an atom, sitting upon the throne. When he starts to speak, the substance, the foundations of everything created go apart. The soul from spirit and the body from the soul, and the framework of all created things are trembling as if everything, visible and invisible, had come to its end. But when he sees the chosen sons and daughters with loving But when he sees the chosen sons and daughters with loving look, then his eyes shine like stars, like when somebody would like to hug a newborn child in its cradle of love. And his starry crown shines like the first created stars bowing before their everlasting king. He holds in his hand the cup containing the 7 stars. If someone holds it, he will rule together with him over the heavenly places. This is the cup of the heavenly kingdom, which is prepared for those who are washed with the blood of the Lamb, clothed with his wedding garment. He who has it has also the bride, the wife, because he came to the wedding of the kingly son. This was the same cup This was the same cup in which I once saw Joseph gather the precious blood of the crucified Jesus. That was at the crucifixion, if you don't remember that portion of the story. Chapter 17. And there, beyond those worlds and beyond many waters, is the access, the foundation of the universe and the foundation of the center of the city. In the center of the city, there is a hard and pure glass like crystal. It resembles a sea over which only the chosen called from here can walk on it. And upon this crystal glass are written things with God's signs, letters, and symbols, which are not possible for men to understand and to know them, even if he saw them, because these are secrets which uphold the universe and which put in order the words within it. The secrets are structures and laws which create everything into existence. These are the words which God himself had written, the Father of everything and everybody. Okay. These are the words which God himself had written, the Father of everything and everybody. Nobody has ever seen the image of God except the Son, and those whom the Son will reveal. God's voice is severe, like the heavenly thunder which shakes the worlds. And his looks are severe, and nobody can come near his presence except if the Holy Spirit will allow them to do so. His dwelling place is wrapped, enveloped in darkness, and in the midst of it there is inaccessible light. When God begins to speak, the angel of comfort takes a stand before him for the sake of the chosen, so that the soul of the mortal might not be killed before the face of the eternal God, for the reason of his majesty, of his nature, of being consuming and a raging fire. He who have seen God have received a gift from him, that is, an inwardly life. In this gift is the source for all secret knowledge and revelations whom God the Father himself has chosen. And behind the walls of the city and behind the lagoon and the southern shores, there is a hill like the Elionic. There the teacher of teachers instructs his pupils and disciples. He is humble and merciful and long-suffering, long-patient, and he never rejects those who have come to be obedient to his word. He removed his kingly clothing and descended from his throne, and dressed like a shepherd, he calmly sat down on the grass on that famous hill. And in that hill you will meet his looks, his eyes, and you will receive his word, and he will point to you the right way, comforting you, because he is the comforter. He will not quarrel, nor he raise his voice, nor will he reject a pupil or a disciple, because he is the true teacher. Many took a seat before his feet, poor and rich, strong and weak, small and big. They came to listen to his voice so that their souls and their bodies could heal. Here is the place for the humble-hearted, the peacemakers, for those who are merciful receive mercy. Come here with your needs and thirst, longing for justice, and you will find answer and a peace in your soul. What more is that in the city there are streets on which always goes a festive procession. Beautiful young men and women meet there filled with joy and burning love for God, accompanied by unforgettable, unique, heavenly music which revives the strength of its listeners. This is the source for joy, laughter, and contentment, something which is experienced seldom in the world you are living and which is very short-lived. In the city there are also squares, a place where is located the school of great teachers of faith. All right, we're going to stop there. We are coming to the break. I just got a little bit more, which I will go into once we return. I hope that you are enjoying the reading. Certainly a very unique text, one that reminds me of the vision of Paul, in that the vision of Paul goes into really great detail about the city of God, New Jerusalem, and the righteous, the honored, the elect who dwell therein. All right, we'll be right back for second hour.
As a bookstore for truth seekers, it's our goal to make ancient manuscripts which were once held captive by secretive institutions available for public consideration. In our generation, where wisdom has increased as Daniel the prophet foretold, we have access to many of the testimonies our early church brethren were persecuted for preserving. After being hidden for centuries, these manuscripts have been leaked from various sources throughout the earth, and it's our goal to gather these sources into printable form to make available for all who seek the ancient way. If you're looking to deepen your studies of the biblical narrative, find these ancient manuscripts and more at sacredwordpublishing.com.
In a world where we are ridiculed for questioning mainstream narrative, it can feel like we are studying alone. So together with you, Sacred Word Publishing classes has begun. Are you interested in Biblical Hebrew, the Nochian calendar, extra biblical texts, or other esoteric topics? Join any class for free. Or do you have research you'd like to share with fellow truth seekers? We'd love to help you set up a class. As students, we also have an opportunity to be teachers, and whichever role you're settled into today, we'll be happy to study with you at swpclass.com. Email us at sacredwordpublishingllc@gmail.com with your class ideas, and we look forward to learning with you. See you in class! With commerce being monopolized by major corporations, we feel a responsibility to return to handmade goods and to support individuals in the community. Sacred Word Publishing wants to encourage truth seekers to support each other, and one of the best ways we can do that is through offering this centralized marketplace where everyone's homemade products can be easily accessed by our fellow members in the body of Christ. Would you be interested in offering your handcrafted items in our store? Email us at sacredwordpublishingllc@gmail.com. Support the truth-seeking community by going to www.swpmarket.com. Many truth seekers are constantly studying alone. But there is a place where we can come together. The Digital Readers Club is our online ecclesia meant for those who've forsaken churchianity but still want the closeness of a family to study with. Join us every Saturday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time to put together the puzzle pieces of truth scattered throughout the ancient scriptures.
Hello friends, thank you for joining us this evening. I'm your host, Zen Garcia.
All right. Thanks for listening while we take that short break here at revolutionradiofreedomslips.com. And yeah, we're going to get back to your host.
All right, welcome back for second hour. We will cover the last chapter of the Chronicles of Longinus, and then we'll read from the Book of Navi, which is a very interesting account in that it details the story of Orpheus, who was one of the benefactors, and which even in the Greek even in the Greek and even in the Roman Orpheus, or who is called Orphi, the Thracian priest king, he was led by Yahushua, the Lamb of God, to the rediscovery of these ancient manuscripts which had been hidden during the time of the upcoming deluge. And then, having discovered them, he was able to preserve the ancient knowledge of the Most High and to share them in a manner that the rest of the world benefited. All right, and so let's read the last portion of this. The great saints of Christ's church educate there the pupils, disciples, so that God's knowledge will not be lost forever, knowledge which was given to the chosen ones. This is the place where the seals of the books are opened, and he who can learn the song of the Lamb will play it on harps. From this place also come out many languages, tongues, like fiery flames, which descend on the chosen ones from all worlds. I think it's interesting that, tomorrow being Pentecost, that it was during the Exodus that the Israelites as a chosen nation were led to have this knowledge and the experience, of the law being given to them and all the other peoples of the world being able to hear it in their own language. And that it was during the life, the incarnation of the Messiah, that they were led by the Holy Spirit to be able to speak in the languages of the countries that they were soon to be visiting, and that having that knowledge, they were able to convert and to baptize and to bring those people, and also speaking, not having previously the ability to comprehend or to, speak in those languages, that they were given this knowledge, this truth, which is quite an amazing story when you really learn about the bigger and in more detail than what we are told in the gospel accounting as to the tongues of fire and being able to speak in tongues. That this was a permanent knowledge, not just something that occurred in the moment. Which I will share with you on one of these Wednesdays in follow-up, the manuscript. It's from the New Testament Apocrypha, which and covers that particular story, so that you can, hear it and be blessed by it. But continuing. Here is the river of life, and as someone drinks from this water, many rivers of life will flow through someone's womb. Tender girls fill up their containers, vessels with this pure water and bring it to the thirsty ones who are seeking to drink it. On their feast, many young snowy men, I'm guessing that's like virgin or pure, pour out in precious containers, vessels, matchless wine, and offer it to the girls. There is also a holy spring pool for bathing, and anybody who bathes in it obtains beauty, vigor, and health. There, everybody is hugging each other and giving each other holy kisses, pure and free from defilement. The godly beauty is power, and the godly power is beauty. The love is pure and holy. Therefore, it is in God. There are also many other places and many things and powerful words which open ways to those places. I'm not allowed to write about all of it because they are prepared only for those who God chose from the beginning, already before the creation of the world, for those who will live in God's city. For those who will live in God's city. Because this heavenly city is preordained to all of God's holy people, chosen from the whole earth, and soon the way to the city will be revealed. And its doors, portals will be opened, and people will enter and go out and be in their countries and in the new Matterick of God. Matterick, as I made mention previously in the show, is like continent or landmass. New country, new land, new place. In the new matteric of God, and will populate it from one end to another, and will be honored cities of Christ's city. Okay, this is the last chapter. But you will ask, when, Father, will be fulfilled all those things, so God's city may come down and be populated with people? And who will show our nation the right path, so we may enter the upper Thracia, the invisible Thracia, God's land, so that Thrace may be renewed, and so Thracia, earthly Thrace, and Thracia, and Thracia may be again one, as it was in the beginning. So the earthly and the ethereal coming together in one. My son, the promise lay upon those who are chosen by Christ, among which you are and your descendants, and upon the whole earth. My son, the promise lay upon those who are chosen by Christ, among which you are and your descendants, and upon the whole sacred Thracian nation, which speaks God's language throughout the centuries. According to this, Thracian is the Edenic language, and I don't know how it's related to Hebrew, but of course, pictographic Hebrew is said to have been the Edenic language of Adam and Eve as well. And that in the last times, we will speak again, and that the language of Hebrew will be restored as a holy language unto all the people. But this will happen during the time of the great Arih, who will come from God, and even those two witnesses who are before the face of the King of the Kings. Night and day are God Christ. After the time of the great king priest in the antiquity, after the empire of the wolves, Rome occupied territories which previously belonged to the shepherds, oracles, prophets of the Savayut, territories from Egypt to the river Pison. The tribes of our people, nation, were scattered without shepherds and without prophetic visions. And because of the betrayals and the fratricide stimulated, incited by demons, who darkened the minds and the will of those who were not willing to submit to the God Isus, God Jesus, Adonai, the faithful, Amim. Today there is not one will, our spirit, and one heart. Today there isn't one will, one spirit, and one heart, which could lead in right and just the way of the destiny of the Bogari people. But God himself, through his bright manifestation, promised me to see in a vision that During the days of my grandchildren, it will appear a man from God, who will be taught as a child in Thracian wisdom, a prophet of God, Thracian, a Thracian patriarch, a Thracian descendant of the Bessi, the Beshoi, and the Geti, the Getai, Geth tribes. Regarding this child, a prophecy will be fulfilled, and he will be called. Regarding this child, a prophecy will be fulfilled, and he will be called the little Orpheus, a young man who will restore the rule of Christ's peace and justice, and he will lead the holy cavalry of all Thracian people in the steps of the King of Kings, the God of our forefathers, the God, the ruler of the great heroes. This, our Father of peace, will remain with honor before the face of God, Jesus, and he will prepare his way through, so the Almighty might again dwell in our land. Then the Dion of Thrace, Dionysus, God Jesus or Isis, the sun giving, will shine again over us with his face and with the light of justice, and will warm up our nation in our holy land. And okay, and so, this prophecy, as Longinus gives it at the very end, is speaking about this little Orpheus, which, when I read from the Book of Navi about Orpheus, you will see that this person, which is, of course, of Thracian descent, and the language and of the lineage of Orpheus, that he will be a leader in the end times, according to the prophecy, which is very interesting because, and I've only shared this with a few people, but the current and modern, the Thracian church, they still have and initiate people into the order of Elijah, and that the teachings of Enoch and Elijah are very revered and persuasive, and that the Thracian church is still one of these 7 original. And so their roots go back very far, and their teachings, their oral traditions, and the knowledge that is preserved by them and through them is revelation that can bless and impact all of us, especially since, again, it confirms without doubt that Christianity as faith and knowledge and belief in Christ as the Passover Lamb, the Son of God, who takes away the sins of the world, that this knowledge was passed down, preserved through them, and is still secrets that are kept and that are preserved through them as a people and as a church. And so, that I think is very exciting, and that we hold, that we should be grateful to the bishop, Bishop Guide, and the rest of the elders of the Thracian church for the work that they do. And God willing, they will release the entirety of the Thracian Chronicles in English very soon, because I know that the world will be greatly impacted and benefit from having access to the work. Even in what we are sharing and reading, it's pretty amazing. All right, we're going to go into another one of the manuscripts, which I'll not be able to cover it in fullness, but just because many of you have never heard it and have never heard even about the Thracian Chronicles, I will share. And I'll do another follow-up at another time to cover in fullness this manuscript as well. Oh, and also, I'm not going to be reading from the entirety. I'm only really going to be sharing 5 chapters. But it will give you a part of the story which I think will interest, and it gives a different perspective on the Greek and the Roman belief system, and shows again, how it is that the Thracian teachings and the Thracian knowledge preceded that which became the, as far as pagan ideology, and that the Christianity as a faith again preceded even that, the Sumerian teachings, which are believed by historians to be the most ancient in the world, that in fact the Thracian culture preceded them by 1,500 to 2,000 years, and this is archaeologically confirmed, and that the artifacts of the Thracian people are said to be some of the most exquisite and the most ancient. And so looking into the treasures of Thrace, I think, you'll be blown away by the superiority of their technique and their capacity as an ancient people to be able to accomplish what they did. It just shows that they were very advanced, and that as a culture, as an empire, they were the foundation for what became the thought and the beliefs of what is said to be the achievement of Greeks and Rome, which they inherited from the Thracian people. All right, we're going to begin in chapter 13. And in the Rhodope mountains, from the sacred posterity of Merois, the priest of god Dionysus, in Paris, a remarkable boy was born, of whom God had prophesied through the oracle in the temple long before his conception, with the words, quote, "A great son shall be born in Thrace, son of the mighty Orpheus, and son of the eternal covenant. And this boy shall bring about the rise and fall of many among the peoples. And he shall restore the divine covenant of his fathers to his people, the covenant which Rhesus broke and the descendants have forgotten." Rhesus, I'm assuming, is indicated in the book of Arih as having betrayed the Thracian people to the Romans and causing their downfall and their diminution and disappearance, because they were unwilling to give up or surrender, but chose death instead of being conquered and being put to slavery, or made and put under bondage. which that part is covered in the first book of Arih that I've already done. All shall listen to him, the tribes of Thrace, the people of Hellas, the Persians, the Egyptians, the tribes of Cilicia, Lydia, Pamphylia, and even all the way to Phoenicia, Bactria, and India, and all of the animals on the earth, and even the heavenly birds. And every tree and every stone shall answer to his call. For upon him my might shall rest, and he shall carry out my will. He shall glorify my name, the name of the god Dion of Thrace, Isis, the sun giving in all the land. And because of him, all of the tribes shall once again speak of Orpheus and my covenant before the great day. And my covenant before the great day of our Lord. And when the boy was born, they called him Get, because he was kin of the Getai. And when he was 7 years old and his father initiated him into the priesthood in the temple, he gave him the holy name Orpheus, because this is how it was prophesied about him, that he would be a great son of Orpheus. And this is how he was remembered for all time. By the name Orpheus. All right, I think it would help actually if I go through some of these footnotes, which I don't usually do, but I think in this case it might bring clarity. Merois is literally Jesus or Isis, the beloved, in the Thracian language. Pere is the sacred ancient city of Thrace with currently unknown whereabouts. But because of its phonetical symmetry to Perpicon, some believe it to be the one in the same place where the sanctuary of Dionysus once was. According to no small number of archaeologists, Orpheus or Orphe himself had been buried in Peperic. From the Book of Navi, it becomes clear that the two great personas bearing the name Orphe and Orpheus are outlined in the history of the Thracians. One of them, Orphe the Thracian, the progenitor of Thrace, the most famous legendary persona of all time, is the creator of the temple worship, mysteries, and music. He is the mediator of the first ever recorded covenant between God and man. His name also means temple, and that is why he is held in reverence as the divine temple. Heramis or Hermes, god of secrets according to the uninitiated. The first tablet of the covenant of Orphe found in more modern times, in which the name of Orphe is written, is dated to be from 5,000 years BC. Thus, Orphe, the progenitor, had lived in that time period or before it. For historical reference, see also the Thracian script decoded number 2 by Dr. Stephen Guide. In their myths, the Greeks make no distinction between the progenitor of Thrace, Orphi, and his descendant, Orpheus. He can also be called Orphe. The second who lives and fulfills his great deeds in a much later date. All right, continuing. And when he came of age, as it was by Thracian custom, Orpheus decided to head out and to travel the wide world to accomplish feats for God and the people of Thrace, and to earn a fulgent, well-known name so that he could be worthy of being the keeper of his people. And when he was in the temple of Dionysus in Pere, and stood immersed in fast and prayer, seeking out God's will and guidance for his upcoming journey, lo and behold, a wondrous vision appeared before him. Now remember, Dionysus, even though, the Greeks believe this to be a Bacchian god of festivity, and that they revered this individual in, by participating in orgies and having temple prostitutes, to be a part of the mystery religion. This is not the way that the Thracian people honored Dionysus, who again is God Isis, or God Jesus. And so they knew him to be the Son of God, and in no way were involved in abomination or pagan type of worship, which include, again, the large orgies and wine and festivity that Dionysus is normally honored and revered in, according to Greek fashion. And so you have to separate yourself from that ideology and that kind of belief system in order to understand the fullness of these scripts and how they are associated to the Son of God. A white-headed sage was standing in front of him, who said to him, Orpheus, I am your great-grandfather, Thrax, whom you do not know. When I was your age, I headed out to walk the earth with my companions, to accomplish great feats and to earn a worthy name for myself, as yourself intended to do as well. However, evil forces instigated the Achaeans to sacrifice me to their gods, so that they may bereave us from the holy posterity of our people, and our name not to be mentioned ever again among the tribes. There's a lot of footnotes here. I'm not going to read all this because it would take too long. There's a lot there. But when they had placed me on the altar and had pressed their knife against my throat, a wondrous golden ram suddenly took my place. And when they sacrificed it, they thought that they had put an end to the name Thrax. And then the golden ram rose above the sacrificial flames and took me far away from the Achaeans and carried me to many places, after which it left me in Colchis, where the bed of Phosos is. There stood a great temple of my God, who had appeared before me in the image of the golden ram, and had rescued me, and there in that temple lies to this day the golden fleece of the ram, alongside the ark with my bones. I beseech thee, in the name of the God of Thrace, bring my bones back to my birthplace, Pere in Thrace, and take with you as a reward the golden fleece which my bones are wrapped within the ark. So this is similar to Joseph's bones that were taken out of Egypt, and also, Moses, even though his bones were hidden before they entered into the land of Canaan. Um, the angels were said to have carried forth his bones and his burial and the law, the Ten Commandments, and also the rod of Aaron was said to have been placed within his casket. All right, continuing. By doing so, you shall return the glory of Thrace and earn yourself a kingly name for all of time. And when Orpheus was still in awe of what he had just seen, suddenly a radiant lamb, like it was of gold, faced him and spoke in human voice. Orpheus, son of the great Orphe, I am the god of your fathers, the sun-giving. Your forefather Orphe rejoiced in my voice, in my word, day and night. Do fulfill the request of old Thrax, and bring the ark with his bones back to the temple of Pede. For in the ark also lie 3 tablets of Orpheus, which belong to your paternal home. Your guide shall be Azon, and he will return to you the throne of your forefathers, which by right belongs to whosoever wields the secrets of the golden runes on the scrolls of the lambskin written by the holy keeper of Thrace. I shall be your side throughout your entire journey, and the spirits of the great holy men of ancient times. I shall be your side. I shall be by your side throughout your entire journey, and the spirits of the great holy men of ancient times will accompany you as well, for their hearts will find no peace until all of the ancient scriptures have been restored and brought back to Pede. Arise now, belt yourself, and begin your journey. For your companions, both visible and non-visible, ethereal, await you to lead them to the eternal and glorious deeds, for which all forthcoming generations will speak in honor of you. And while Orpheus was still gazing in the vision, he saw a tall white throne, and 4 living creatures and many old men in front of it, and among them stood the same lamb, like it was slain from the beginning of the creation of the world, which had 7 horns and 7 eyes. And it came forth and approached the throne and took a great book from the right hand of he who was sitting in the throne. And when he took the book, and when he took the book, the 4 living creatures and the many old men fell to their knees before the Lamb, while each and every one was holding a harp and a golden cup. And they began to sing Epod with the words, May blessing and honor, glory and sovereignty be unto he who sits in the throne and unto the Lamb forever and ever. And when the vision began to fade, and Orpheus found himself once again standing before the altar in the temple of the god Dionysus. Amazed by what he had seen, young Orpheus requested an audience with the oracle in Pede and told him about the vision. Once you find your guide, tell him to come to me, and I shall give him directions for your journey. The oracle briefly replied and bid him farewell. Orpheus immediately began asking around for someone with knowledge and experience who could guide him and his companions on a long trip, and promised a big sum of money to such a person, especially if he was named Azon. Not many days passed, and an Achaean sailor named Jason was brought to him, who said that he is ready for such a task, if the pay were indeed handsome. Orpheus was immensely pleased with this, because the Achaean sailors were quite famous for being very educated, skilled, and insightful people when it came to knowing about the wide world, and they quickly struck a bargain about the price. The following day, Orpheus sent him to the oracle in Paris, as he and the oracle had agreed to do, so that he may receive directions for reaching their desired goal. Liaison. Returned to him, and he had written down everything. The oracle had said. Here's an interesting footnote. The vision described here is almost identical to the one experienced by St. John the Apostle more than 1,000 years later on the island of Patmos, and described in the Book of Revelation. See chapters 5, 6 through 14, and so on. How interesting. All right, continuing. I know we don't have a lot of time, but at least it'll give you an idea for where we're going. Now, this is an educated man, Orpheus said to himself. It seems that he is a literate Hellene. He can write, and he has understood and written down everything accurately. And clearly. Jason notes read. The oracle said the following: the destination can be reached only by sailing with Argo, the Argo, which means a fast ship. And this story is also connected to Jason and the Argonauts, as you will see, and also to the search for the Golden Fleece, which, contrary to Roman or Greek mythology, is something connected to Christianity and not mythology, which again is very interesting and comes forth in great detail from this particular manuscript. Along the way, you must be aware of the Harepi, King Kos, and the Amazon women, and to reach Colita, Colchis, you must learn from Finn, who knows the bed of Phosos, the river faces best, and Lick, Lyke, he who gazes upon the gods, who has sealed the images of to lead you. And once you reach or eat, Aya, the king of Colchis, you will have to defeat the bull, the man, and the golden dragon, and seek the help of the mighty Medea, the sorceress. If you find yourself in need, seek advice from Chiron, the centaur. How interesting. This is how you will find the golden fleece of tracks there. I have spoken. Sorry about the correction, said Jason, but the old man was mumbling. And I think that that a lot of things are not clear to him. Also regarding your man, I know that he is no longer named Trax, but Fricus, or Freaks, Phryks, because he became Phrygian, and that he has left Troy with many ships carrying big cargo and settled down in Colchis. I have been to Colchis, and I know many things about the way to it. We will need a very firm and fast ship, which I will try to acquire myself, but I need your promise that we will split the gold we find from. But I need your promise that we will split the gold we find from the treasure equally so that I may pay for a good crew from my share. And after they reached an agreement, Yazan swiftly spread the word among the local wealthy merchants that he is setting sail towards Colchis to deliver an entire ship with golden hides from it, and was looking for offers with which he quickly amassed everything in need for the entire ship trip. Soon after, he managed to acquire a decent ship, and when he wrote the name Argo on it, he proudly summoned Orpheus, his companions, and the crew which he had hired to present it to them. They feasted the whole night through by Thracian customs and set sail east of Abdera in the morning. Okay. They sailed across the Thracian Sea, continued through the Hellespont, sailed across the Propontic Sea, continued through the Bosporus, reached Salamidius, and then headed north. I know we're quickly run out of time. I apologize. I'm just don't know which footnotes to share and which not to, because they do add to a lot of the detail, but I can't read all of them. They sailed across the Thracian Sea, continued through the Hellespont, which I believe the Hellespont would be that which I wrote about in Paradise, sides in the north, and Mount of the Congregation, the what is believed to be the great sea monster, but which is the whirlpool at the center of the earthen plain, Charybdis. Sailed across the Propontic Sea, continued through the Bosporus, reached Salmidasos, and then headed north all the way to Mysia, after which again to the southeast along the coast of Bithynia, and then firmly to the east across Pontus. They wandered for a long time following the sea currents and winds, and although Yazan claimed to know the way to Colchis, they just could not reach their destination. They kept asking everywhere about Trax or Fricks and about the golden fleece, but it seemed that no one had any knowledge on the matter. Everyone stared at them in wonder, and they saw work worn and burdened by their everyday problems and troubles. People everywhere fighting for their daily ration of bread and just trying to survive until the next day, who were not only incapable of helping them reach their destination, but sought comfort and help from them. They also came across war and rumors of war in some places, which forced them to work their way around some towns in order to avoid being caught between. the warring tribes. They had traveled to nearly every coastal city in Thrace and Hellas, but still could not figure out where the Golden Fleece was. Luckily, they had a lot of food and water and also silver coins, so that they were able to buy more provisions and continue their journey, which had now lasted several months. And although they aimed to sail near the coastline, they sometimes found themselves in rough waters and open sea, and fierce storms nearly sank their ship several times, but did not, thanks to and although they aimed to sail near the coastline, they sometimes found themselves in rough waters and open sea, and fierce storms nearly sank their ship several times, but did not, thanks to the good crew which Jason had hired. And when they had finally lost all hope of reaching the coveted Colchis on a wonderful sunny day, amidst calm and quiet waters, Orpheus and his companions entered the wide outfall of the big river which flowed into the distant east of the Pontic Sea. And when they had landed in a suitable dock, they learned that they had reached Colchis, because this was the outfall of the river Phasis. They were all swept up by indescribable joy, because it seemed that they had finally reached their destination. Once they set foot on the land, they were immediately surrounded by soldiers who asked them of their business there. And when the soldiers heard that they were sent to the king of Colchis, they burst out in laughter, because there was no such king in Colchis. And they had never heard of one, not in the time of their fathers, nor in the time of their grandfathers, but once they learned that Orpheus was a son of a priest and that Jason was a son of a king, they showed proper honorable respect and hospitality, and their commander promised to send word of their arrival to Cleisthenes, Cliston, the king of Colchis. Once they spent several days in the inns and taverns at the docks, being taken round everywhere by the soldiers who had accompanied them, they were finally invited to the royal palace, where they were taken to by King Cleisthenes. By special guardsmen. The king invited and treated them to a feast as a token of his hospitality, and proceeded to listen very carefully and patiently to the long fables of their journey and about their goal in the presence of his nobles. My honored and highly reputed guests, he finally said, your determination and bravery for undertaking such a long and perilous trip truly amazes me, and be sure that you have earned my respect and favor. I wish that my people and I could be of help in every way in order to assist you in finding what you seek. But alas, not my councilmen, who are all too wise, nor I have heard of this golden fleece. One last sentence. My honored and highly reputed guest, he finally said, oh, I wish that my people and I could be of help in every way in order to assist you. I not even of a famous traveler named Trax. I have not heard even of a famous traveler named Trax, or even Fricus, who supposedly brought such a thing here, nor of him living in our lands for that matter. I do not want you to think that my people or I are somehow trying to hide something from you which is here among us, or that we want to rob your people of Thrace and Hellas, for which we have always heard glorious words, and which we highly respect and desire to be good neighbors of and to live in peace. And because you have traveled so far to reach us, and because we have many other wonders, even if they are not this golden fleece, please allow my nobles to take you to these places in my kingdom and be my guest for at least a month, so that you may travel everywhere and revel in everything which is glorious among my people, and also to personally make sure that we are not hiding the golden fleece from you here. All right, we're going to have to end it there. But I will do a follow-up, and I will easily be able to finish the narrative of the Book of Navi, which covers the story of Orpheus and the rediscovery of the antediluvian manuscripts and how they were passed down among the sons of Japheth and the kings specifically of Thrace. All right, be blessed all. Good night. Oh, I will be on with Rob tonight at midnight to 2 a.m. So please join us for a continuation of the Genesis Revisited series. God bless. Good night.
Thank you everybody for joining us for this video and this broadcast. We appreciate all of you and thank you for your patronage. Please do like and subscribe and share with your friends. God bless all of you in your seeking.